go. Nick Cruz interviewing Ro Khanna. Here's a clip from that.
And all the food going to Africa comes out of Ukraine.
So, Ro, is it about rare earth minerals? Is it about money, or is it actually caring about the Ukrainian people?
For me, it's about the principle of self-determination. I mean, that's what influenced me growing up, right? My grandfather's struggle against colonialism, the belief that people should have the right to have self-determination of their nationhood. It's why I support a Palestinian state, self-determination for Palestinians. It's why I support a Jewish state of the state of Israel.
Do you support Hamas and the right for Palestinians to engage in self-defense against Israel?
I don't support Hamas.
So you don't support. So Hamas is an organization with Palestinians, correct? Israel is illegally occupying Gaza and the West Bank and committing a genocide according to international courts. If anyone has the right to self-defense, it will be Palestinians, aka Hamas. Well, look, so how do you oppose that, but you want to wage war with Russia because the United States is in their backyard?
I come from a tradition of belief that nonviolence demonstration and the tradition of Gandhi or King is what's going to help.
Why not apply it to Ukraine? There was a peace deal on the table.
Well, because that was the invasion of a sovereign state.
Israel's invading Palestine.
I think in case we get a little thing on that Larry David thing. That's great book in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was really too easy. Yeah. It's too easy, and I'm surprised he did it to your question earlier. I'm not interested in talking to politicians. I'm not a guy who interview politicians. I'm interested in educating the proletariat and organizing among us. Ooh. But I'm more than willing to have someone on my show if they disagree with me on anything. Me and Pasta even had a friendly spar before on RBN. I'm more than happy to talk about issues with people I disagree with, which includes Congress people. Now, Ro, we had an exchange on Twitter that did not go well for him. I ratioed him pretty bad because the progressive left started tweeting about Medicare for all, and I saw the strategic pivot that I once fell for. Whenever there's a Republican in charge, they started tweeting and pretending to be anti-war and extremely progressive, and I called Ro out for it. I'm like, why are you guys tweeting about Medicare for all now when you guys didn't force the vote, you guys didn't push Biden, but now Trump won and Republicans are controlling government, and you guys want to tweet about Medicare for all now? So I wasn't planning a show. I just tweet that out. It didn't go well for Ro. He actually replied to it, and after our exchange, he asked to come on, and the rest is history. And I'm glad I was able to do this because it was very cathartic, because I've been waiting to grill the people I call the NATO left for a very long time on their inconsistencies regarding Ukraine, and that's what you see in that clip there. And these people, they're not even able to intellectually justify the votes they made. Ro Khanna will try and separate himself from genocide Joe Biden. I want to make sure that people understand that he voting for Biden 99% of the time. 99% of the time. So the era where Ro Khanna is going to win over and swoon over the left, that is far since gone. And I think he miscalculated. Maybe he didn't do his research, probably thought that he can come on RBN and sweet talk us like Crystal Cow and thank you. That was not going to happen. I told him up front, like, if you come on RBN, it's going to be adversarial. But he thought he could, like, win me over, and that absolutely was not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I'll point this out, and Craig, I'll let you get on this in a second. But my favorite part was when he asked you, would you vote for Bernie today? And you just said, no.
Hell no.
No. Why should we support people who want to wage war on Russia? And the look on Ro's face, you nailed it. He was not prepared. He had no idea. He thought he would get you on that would be your little uniting moment. And you were like, no.
Bonding moment.
Yeah, that's what he was hoping for. So I mean, that's what happened. I think so. Yeah. If you want to.
And Ro, people give him a lot of credit. I think he does deserve credit, but there's this coordinated strategy that because after the Democrat devastating loss, they want to come on more independent shows. Now, obviously, they're not going to send like a Chuck Schumer to us, right? They're going to send a person they view as the most progressive among us, which is Ro Khanna, to try to win back the people they lost after their support of the genocide in Gaza, their support the Ukraine war in cop cities. So their plan after getting destroyed by Trump is to come on the outlets and try to start a new Bernie 3.0 movement using independent media. The problem is they completely miscalculated because I had people to my left that criticized me for supporting Bernie. I think they made legitimate points in 2020, but my support for Bernie in 2020 was contingent on this being the last time. So the reason why you see Ro, his face deflate, we asked that question because when I answered the question that way, because he's realizing he's wasting his time. He thought that this was going to be an experiment to help rebuild the Bernie coalition for his incoming presidency, AOC's incoming presidency in 2028. He realized that wasn't going to happen. He realized at that point he was wasting his time. And he did a good job finishing the rest of the interview because obviously a politician, he don't want to look bad. You know what I mean? He don't want to make headlines. But the second that I told him that I wouldn't vote for Bernie, you can tell that he realized that he wasted his time coming on here. And he's like, all right, let me just get this interview out of the way. Because the rest of his arguments was, as you guys see in the interview, very incoherent and easy to swat down. I think you guys could do the same thing. People praise me, but I think anyone in our community could do the same thing because that's how intellectually weak our current ruling class is.
Yeah. I think that that was a really good interview, and a lot of things that you pointed out, I think I would have liked to see a little bit more elaboration on the whole Russia thing, but I love the fact that you pointed out Matt Duss. Like, hello, listen, one of Bernie Sanders' #1 foreign policy advisor was Matt Duss. If you don't know, boys and girls out there who are listening, Matt Duss came for the Center for American Progress, Neera Tanden's group right now. You know what I'm saying? That's where he was at one point. Neocon as can be, was all for that Russian invasion. But the thing I think that was best that came out, and I only watched the first 30 minutes, and I'm going to continue on.
That's most of the interview.
Yeah. So I watched 30 minutes. I didn't see you get out of there with him, and I want to watch the rest of it. But I think that what Ro Khanna did, first of all, let's give him guts for coming on with you, too, as well. He knew it was going to be adversarial. But the fact is that I'm a poker player, and what he did is what a lot of the Democrats are doing is they're tipping their cards. They're showing us a tell. And that tell is they're going to still try to make this argument around Russia being that Vladimir Putin, without proof, tried to recreate the old Russian Empire, the old USSR, and that's what he did. It was completely illegal. It was unprovoked. And we have to understand and know that, well, wait a second, what about Minsk 1 and 2? For 8 years, Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation sat back and tried to negotiate, and you pointed it up beautifully that if it was a bunch of Mexican people killing American people on the border over there and they lobby, they would do the same thing. And you pointed out it was a proxy. So I think that now that we have the knowledge, and they're going to still continue this effort to try and dupe the people and make it feel like Vladimir Putin is Thanos and he was just trying to take up land, rather than the fact that it was a proxy war on his border. And, what Fiorella had told me is that when she got to Russia, she understood that a lot of people, even though they don't want this war, they're exhausted for this war, they felt that Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation dragged their feet and should have gotten involved earlier. And now we know Lindsey Graham, McCain when he was alive. We had Democrats too as well that were carpetbagging in there, whether it be Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi's son, Paul Biden, Paul Biden. It's the same freaking creature these people are. But the fact that they showed their hand and they're going to still try to push this argument, I think that's a lot of ammunition for us independent media field to go back and push back. Don't you agree, Nick?
Yeah, and in my post analysis, and I admit that I could have handled his Putin pushback better. He kind of caught me off guard where he was because I wasn't expecting him to lob me a question. He said, "Well, you got to admit that Putin is wrong in invading Ukraine." And I would have loved to bring up the fact that many people in the Donbass and Eastern Ukraine was supportive of the Russian military action, and they voted to join Russian force. So I will 100% acknowledge that I could have pushed back better, but I was kind of threw off guard by the question because I think we should remind Westerners that Russians do have the right to defend themselves and defend their sovereignty. And that's why I brought it up to Mexico. That was my attempt to recover when I realized I could have answered that question.
You did a good job.
Yeah.
I would have thrown in Minsk 1 and 2.
Yeah.
1 and 2 is another weapon where Putin used the international courts, the institutions, to try and get them to pull out and leave the people of Donbass alone. So I think you did a really good job
for
there.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was always critical of what I could say as well. And I remember thinking, I said this in the post show. Y'all know you didn't get that far, but I was like, man, I really wish I could have said something different, because I said something along the lines like, yeah, I think you could critique Putin. So I didn't like that answer, to be honest, but that was just what I came up with at the time. But in the West, they laid out as Russia didn't have any legitimate claim to self-defense. But when you look at the Nazis, and when they strolled through to Moscow, they came through Ukraine. When you look at the atrocities that Napoleon committed, it was through Ukraine. So even though I'm not from Russia, I 100% understand why Russians don't want any foreign influence in Ukraine. And I probably should have said that directly, but I did the allegory to Mexico. But the Ukraine war, and that's why I'm glad I had a chance to push Ro, because we only got to like the first layer of the Ukraine, but there's so many layers of what makes the left supporting the proxy war in Ukraine so nefarious. We couldn't even get to all of them. Like, for example, just ideologically, principally, I'm against funding Banderite Nazis in Ukraine, the same Nazis that Ro Khanna used to call out. And now these same people would like to deny that these people are fascists. They like to deny and say that these people was rehabilitated. But we know that fascism is simply how you organize the relationship between labor and capital. And in Ukraine, they banned the right to collective bargaining. They banned the right for workers to join a union. They banned socialist parties. You want to know the first thing that Nazi Germany did? You want to know what the first thing Mussolini did? They banned socialist parties. They banned the right to collectively organize. So whenever you have these people that want to say, oh, there's no Nazis in Ukraine, their government is literally engaging in fascist policies. So if you want to defend that, if you want to arm those people, we are going to have a problem. So I'm glad I finally, because I've been waiting to grill the NATO left on Ukraine. And that's why I'm glad that Ro came on and gave me the chance to do that.
Matt, really quickly, I just want to also say that the little seed you planted there. Am I correct to hear that you also kind of mentioned when he was trying to talk about Bernie, because we used to say Bernie's the compromise, especially people like us, me and Fee and yourselves, who are involved in foreign policy. Did you mention like a Kosovo or a Belgrade kind of that you mentioned in there about Bernie? Because that was one of the things what we used to hold against Bernie, is the fact that he supported that war in Kosovo and the bombing going on. Did I hear you mention something that there? I think I heard something.
I don't know if I use Kosovo as a specific example. I'm not sure if I say that specifically, but I did bring up to Ro the reason why I would never support the Bernie Sanders campaign ever again is because I grew up under the Iraq War. And Ro, Bernie, and AOC, I said this many times in the last 2 years, they grossly miscalculated. Like, they thought that the Ukraine war could be something that would be like, oh, just a small blight on my record. Yeah, I support the Ukraine war, but come on, I support Medicare for all too. No, to me, you supporting the Ukraine war is the same as someone being like a hardcore homophobic bigot, which is why I asked them the question. This is why these people are morally bankrupt, because they will never, ever vote for someone who was a hardcore homophobic bigot. Like someone, I'm not talking about someone who hides it. Like, imagine someone who ran on it. Like, that was like their key thing. Would they vote for them? No. So if you wouldn't vote for someone who is an anti-gay bigot, why would you vote for someone who's an anti-Palestinian racist? Why would you vote for someone who support Banderite Nazis in Ukraine? Which is something I was probing them on. I've been probing these people ever since I left the Bernie movement. Where's the red line? Is there a red line? And if there's no red line between what stops you from supporting your party, what exactly is the difference between you and MAGA? What is actually the difference between you and a George W. Bush supporter? Because I thought that progressives, something I used to consider myself, I thought we was above that. And there was a time where I was misinformed and I supported Bernie. But the second that they crossed my red line, my character, my moral values, I made the adjustment. Pasta knew me for a while. I made the adjustment. The lack of the adjustment, it's pretty unreasonable to make it so people are never wrong. But if you're not making adjustments on your moral character when people cross your red line, that is deeply problematic. And that is exactly what I've seen from Ro Khanna, AOC, and Bernie Sanders, where he I'll give you one example. I'll pass it back to you guys. He said, y'all, I opposed the DNC not allowing Palestinians to speak. What do you mean you opposed it? Yeah. You still voted for them. Yeah. And do you understand how that if I was uneducated, that alone, like, imagine if you was born yesterday, that alone would be enough for me to quit a party. Because think about what they did. These are Palestinians that are sellouts. They are, and they're not coming from me. I talked to many Palestinians. They are despised among the Palestinian Community Network, the people that was wanting to speak at the DNC. These are Palestinians who wanted to endorse Kamala Harris. But the racism in the Democratic Party was so thick, they prevented them from speaking. So according to Ro, and most Democrats, they would never vote for someone who was anti-gay, right? But they wanted to vote for a party that is so bigoted towards Palestinians that they wouldn't even allow a Palestinian that was going to endorse Kamala to speak. Like, isn't that alone a deal breaker? If that's not, how can you claim to have more?
No, Nick, they let Little John sing "Burn Down" for what? Turn down for what? We were there.
I feel so represented. After that.
I'm going to go a little further on where they actually do draw their line, Nick, because I actually think the Democrats have conditioned their own selves so hardcore beyond having a red line. I don't think that you can actually draw the hypocrisy anymore on the whether they vote for somebody against gays. I think they're at a point they've conditioned themselves that when you need to stop a meteor from hitting the earth, which could be COVID, it could be Trump, whatever, Putin, you'll do anything to stop it, which means you will align with anything that's going to compromise your values. So I do think he would vote for an anti-gay person if it was someone that could stop Trump, if it was someone that could stop COVID, if it was someone that could stop the thing that you're supposed to be deathly afraid of. You're willing to compromise your principles for those, and because you're not wired that way, you're saying, of course we have a red line, and he's looking at you like, no, there really isn't a red line at all. We all have to do our part to stop evil Putin, and that's it. So I'm not gonna. There's no red line at all, and I love that you. Again, I go back to that moment on his face when you said no, I wouldn't vote for Bernie, and I would have added in this part. I would have said I'm not going to vote for a guy who actually has people arrested at his rallies, the Code Pink people who showed up to put his own tweets up, and he has them arrested because he can't look at his own tweets about why getting involved with Ukraine, Russia is going to be wrong, and they were just holding up his own tweets. So that's the kind of censorship they're having in their own party. And I just think this red line thing, I think that you're pulling the curtain back on the fact that the Democrats don't seem to have any red line at all about anything.
Yeah, and I could easily see them. Like you said, I can easily see them voting for an anti-gay bigot. But if you have no principles, you can't pretend to have the moral high ground. They will call us Trumpers because we are critical of the Democrat. I know that happened to you guys. People accuse you of being Trumpers.
Oh yeah.
And the crazy thing about liberals, they don't even realize that I despise Trump. Like saying, like the idea of MAGA taking control of the government, that is deeply problematic to me. But the liberals, they committed crimes so bad, they are so evil that I'm like, they're no different. They don't even realize that. They assume that because you oppose their crimes, that you're somehow approving of MAGA. It's how the red blue game programs people, so we constantly at a race to the bottom, and that's what we had at this point in America, where during the election, I commented at the time, it was literally people on the right pretending to be offended at things that people on the left are saying, and then people on the left pretending to be offended at things that the right. That's essentially our politics, because you had Donald Trump essentially saying that any American who opposes the Israeli genocide is garbage. So that's Donald Trump trashing Americans. Then you have Biden and Democrats saying anyone who don't support them are deplorables. It's the same race to the bottom that you get from the duopoly, and your moral character degrade by continuing to support these cults. And I think people like Ro, who's otherwise smart, who has like a law degree and all this shit, they don't even realize how much they are being programmed until they run into a citizen journalist like us. Like he never stood a chance because he didn't even understand the arguments that we were making, even though I knew everything that he was going to say.
And other cards he tipped off, by the way, he kind of mentioned like the Arab leagues as a way of saying, the Arab leagues, they're, first of all, a lot of them are monarchs that are propped up by the United States, and they're negotiating with a gun to their head. Like if they don't agree, their own country can get wiped out, right? So they have to kind of go along. And also the fact that he mentioned the American Rescue Plan, which is nothing more than a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. And I think these are very, once again, tipping their cards and understanding that these bills have pretty names and they sound like they're going to help people out. And he used the same talking point that Biden used and Bernie used, was like, this is reducing poverty in children. Yeah, for how long? Until that's taken away, until it runs out. It might help you for a couple months, but it's not going at the actual core systemic problems we had. And I think it was also awesome the way you got him on a lot of those things too as well, Nick.
Yeah, and we have a record amount of medical debt. We have a record amount of people on homelessness. That's why as soon as he started getting to that liberal spiel about American rescue plans, I knew he didn't do his research, because I don't accept the ridiculous capitalist metrics that they put on us. They said we have this amazing economy and workers are simply too dumb to understand how the economy is doing, because they're using their metrics. The metrics that actually matter to the working class, the Democratic Party has failed. So it was unbelievable that Ro came on RBN and thought he can trick us with all these things, quoting the Arab League. And trust me, Pastor, I had 45 minutes and I wanted to make sure I get certain things. But he said so many things I could have took individually and dismantled. But for sake of time, I don't let a few of those things go about how out of touch that he was. And to think that he could trick us. And to think that they have our best, they had the best intentions to fight for us is absurd. It's already been proven they don't. And even if there wasn't hardcore ideological disagreements between me and Ro, the idea of him turning us into Democrats is delusional. Now, Ro, AOC, and Bernie would have been way better served. They would have been way better served if they followed our direction, fought as hard as they could, and failed. Like, can you imagine if they fought the establishment, but they failed? Like, they would be heroes.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
The reason why they dead and the reason why they stand no chance is because not only did they not fight, they surrendered. Like, can you imagine if AOC, Ro Khanna, and all these people, Jamal Bowman, forced to vote, even if we had a bad strategy, because they argued that our strategy was bad. Let's say they was right. Let's say they was right, but they still forced to vote and we failed. They will be seen as heroes. I still believe that Jamal Bowman will have his seat. Yeah. I think Cori Bush will still have their seat if they fought and they failed. The problem is they didn't fight, they surrendered, which means there is zero chance of them ever winning us over.
Yeah, Matt Gaetz used the force the vote tactic to get rid of the speaker. I mean, we have to rely on Republicans to use force the vote. I was just like,
hey, they're better at it, but hey, we're Trumpers for calling it out that they're better at it. So we can't win either way. It's hilarious. But yeah, I would leave it one last question about Ro, Nick, before we get you out of here. We saw discussions after the interview. People were kind of debating whether Ro was a useful idiot or he knew exactly what he's doing. And so has your opinion changed since that interview about where you think he falls? Because I know people are kind of split on that. We'll probably give our feedback in a second, but where are you on like percentage wise? What percentage of him is useful idiot versus he knows exactly what he's doing?
Ro is a really talented politician. And the reason why I say that is because I can't tell. My instinct tells me he don't believe anything he says, because that's what I know how politicians they just say whatever their donors say. But there's a mechanism where if you are entrenched in liberal propaganda I'm talking about like this is your life and this is Ro Khanna's life. There's a certain part, and I can tell that there's a certain part among the liberal class where they start to believe their own bullshit. You know, like obviously they are bullshitting us, but after a while they start to believe. They start to legitimately believe. I think Ro is a mix of both of those things, where he obviously says stuff that is meant to trick us, but at the same time he believes that he is such in the right to the point where he can come on my show. Like, because if he didn't believe in some of that stuff, right, he will have no confidence in defending it. Like, does that make sense? The fact that he even went on my show and thought that he can trick and change my opinion means that he must believe some of it.
I don't know. There's the Zionist mindset. They know how to deflect with that. There's that, right? Where you're for sure. You have your little deflections ready and like, do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? So like there is it's not always like fully believing it. Sometimes it's about winning the argument at all costs. Maybe there's
Yeah,
some
and
of
to that
that.
comment that you put up there, that's why I think Ro's talented, because I can't legitimately tell. Like, there are some people that you can tell. They're with everything they say. Hakeem Jeffries, he don't believe a goddamn thing that's coming out of his mouth. He's saying exactly what his donors. And Ro is kind of, to me, maybe I'm delusional. Call me out if I am delusional.
No, I think you're hitting it on the
boss.
nose. I think you're hitting it on the nose. Like, you can tell that Hakeem Jeffries is just like what's his name from the Senate. Who's the leader of the Senate and the Democrats? Help me out. Oh my Lord. Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
You could tell they don't believe in what they're saying.
Yeah.
They just, you know what I'm saying? But these people are narcissists. They're sociopaths. And eventually they start believing their own BS. And I think Ro is one of those guys who really believes his own BS. Just like there's still a lot of leftists out there. They call them leftists that believe that the Democratic Party is the lesser of the two evils. And it ain't. It's the establishment. It's one party. At least that's the way I feel.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Exactly it.
Well, hopefully, I mean, these type of interviews are important because people are able to see it directly, that he's tongue-tied. He can't answer these questions. He's got that look on his face. We need more of this, but we lose our access journalism when we get harsh like this. So I hope we can continue to have these moments. So I appreciate you were able to pull this thing off. I don't know if he's going to want to come back on and talk to you again after that, but
I don't know. I don't know if he's bullshitting, but guys, he said he wanted to do it again.
Like, he did.
Ro Khanna's a madman, man. I don't know if he was bullshitting after the game. Apparently, they said I heard from an aide that Ro enjoyed the conversation. I don't know that.
Who else could do what he did? Who else could do what he did in the Democratic Party? Listen, they have no choice but to speak to some of us. There was nobody in that Democratic Party that could do what he could do. That's it. He's like the only one.
He might be a masochist. Is that the thing?
Yeah, that's what my brother Nico said. My hotspot brother Nico was talking about that because I think he got the assignment. You know, I saw AOC went on Sam Cedar, which is obviously Sam Cedar milquetoast, but according to AOC, Sam Cedar like fucking Malcolm X. So that's like AOC taking a risk going on Sam Cedar show. So Ro got the AOC is too important though to the party. You know what I mean? Yeah. They can't have her doing risky stuff. Yeah. They were willing to sacrifice a Ro though. So they told Ro, we need you to go on a few independent media channels. We need you to win some of these Bernie bros back over. So I think that's another reason why he really, God damn, I gotta do that again. Hakeem tells me to do it. So maybe it's a bit of both, but he definitely a madman because they said they want to do it again, which is interesting.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Nick, hey, show us where we can find you. Hey, Jamie, you want to bring that up? The Revolutionary Blackout Network. There we are. Socialist MMA. We can follow.
Make sure you guys follow my homies at Hotspot as well. Nico's killing the game. I release about 4 or 5 videos a week for Hotspot. Make sure you guys follow us on RBN. I did a live stream with Nico earlier today. And actually now thinking about it, it's been a while since we had Pasta on. So I need to bring you guys on as well. So make sure you guys check us out. We need to continue to grow this independent media apparatus because the liberals are down. The Democrats, they're in shambles. So we're going to be there to pick up the people who are looking for a political direction. And here soon, Donald Trump is going to sell out MAGA. It's predictable. He's going to sell them out. Yeah. And then Trump supporters are going to need somewhere to go. And that's where our job is, to pick up the people who are tired of the status quo and give them a direction. So make sure you guys check us out on RBN and check me out on Hotspot.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Nick, for dropping by with us. Great conversation. Nick Cruz, RBN. We'll be in touch again. And I'd love to come on and continue the conversation for sure. Power to the people, power in numbers with us all. We
should go visit Nico, all of us.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was telling Nico that's gonna happen.
Oh, wow.
I've already been there. I haven't been to that part, but I'm going up there to go see him for sure.
Awesome. All right, thank you guys. Have a good one, y'all.
You too, Nick. All right. Okay. Great discussion. Great discussion. I like breaking these things down because it inspires me that we can have these moments happen. That Nick was able to get with Ro Khanna. We can do it. Obviously, AOC is not going to come on a show, any of ours, but just having that kind of puts a little hope, I think, in me that we can have these conversations and have them be on record. People can see this stuff. It's not going away. People can watch this right now. You guys can finish our show. Go watch the full interview with Nick and Ro Khanna. It's great that it's out there. I love it. So, okay, we're moving on here. Let's go ahead and do you want to take a minute or two, or are you good?
Is Leslie's part now, or do we have some more
I've not heard back from Leslie yet. We're going to find that out within the next half hour, I believe, if that's happening. But we have a real fake news update.
Let's do it.
I want to get to. You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Today we actually wanted to cover a bunch of stuff on real fake news, but it's too much, guys. I mean, you guys know the stuff with Trump and all this stuff he's been doing with the Canada stuff. We could talk about that and the Gulf of America stuff and all that. And then there's a lot there. There's a lot there. The way the media
Greenland, baby.
Yeah. But I think just today, being that we're covering the fires here in LA right now, we're gonna focus on Trump versus Newsom because that's very current, very now, and we're gonna see how CNN is covering that. So I'm gonna intro this. Why don't let me set? You know what? I feel better if I set the videos up first before I play the intro. But that's gonna be our focus today. Let's see. Give me 1 second. If you want to say something in the meantime, tell people where they can find us while I'm setting up this segment here, Craig.
Okay, well, guys, you can always find Matt at the Homeless Left. He's got a Rumble out there too as well, and you can always join on in. What's the YouTube channel today? What's it called?
So we have our new YouTube. Jamie, if you want to grab it off the banners, it's our new YouTube we're experimenting with. It's THL Presents on YouTube because, as you guys know, the Homeless Left on YouTube got terminated. It no longer exists. All of our followers, all of our videos, all of our everything, all gone. So we're trying to do a different name. I know you guys, told me be careful. They're just going to do the same thing again. Oh, well, they do the same thing again. Fine. I don't want to say I don't care, but I just think it's the right thing to do to keep it. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep going at it. That's how I look at it. That's kind of my take on it. Here we go. I think we're okay. We got that one almost ready. Oh, look at that.
Where's that from? What's the YouTube again?
It's THL Presents. Actually, I can grab. It's right here. I can grab it. Yeah. Oh, that's it. There we are.
Where? I can't. Let me see. Where's a link? I need a link.
Well, it's on. I put it on
at THL Presents. That's why it's not coming up.
Yeah, you have to put the ad in. Everybody, everybody knows that, right? That YouTube, you